Jenny sat in the dimly lit church, her hands trembling as she clutched a rosary. The air smelled of burning candles and old wooden pews. She couldn't lift her head, not even to meet the gentle eyes of the Reverend Father sitting across from her. The weight of her sin was too heavy, pressing her down like an iron chain. "Father, I have done something terrible," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Something so shameful, I don't even deserve to be here." The priest leaned forward, his voice calm and steady. "My child, no sin is too great for God's mercy. Speak and let your heart find peace." Tears rolled down Jenny's cheeks. She took a deep breath, but the words felt like fire in her throat. I slept with a dog for money." The silence in the church was suffocating. Even the flickering candles seemed to pause. The priest didn't flinch, but Jenny could see the shock in his eyes before he masked it with calmness. She had finally said it, the secret that had been eating her alive, the choice she made out of desperation, a decision that shattered every part of her soul. But how did she get here? How did a bright, ambitious university student find herself in such darkness? Jenny closed her eyes, letting her mind drift back to where it all began. 2 months earlier, Jenny was just another struggling university student in Lagos. She was brilliant, hardworking, and full of dreams. But dreams don't pay bills, and reality was cruel. Her mother had been sick for years, her frail body growing weaker each day. The medical bills were piling up. Her younger siblings often went to bed hungry, their stomachs growling through the night. Her father? He had abandoned them long ago, leaving Jenny to be the pillar of the family. She worked multiple part-time jobs, skipping meals just to save money. But no matter how hard she tried, it was never enough. The landlord had already threatened to throw them out. The hospital refused to treat her mother without payment. And her university fees? A distant dream. One evening, as Jenny sat outside her hostel, scrolling through her phone in frustration, a message popped up. "Looking for a quick way to make big money? DM me if you're interested. No stress, just easy cash." She hesitated, then clicked on the profile. The account belonged to a girl named Amaka, someone she had seen around campus. Amaka was always dressed in the latest designer outfits, carrying expensive bags and riding in flashy cars. Everyone knew she had connections, but nobody ever questioned how she got her money. Jenny's heart pounded as she typed, "What kind of job is this?" Seconds later, Amaka replied, "Meet me tomorrow. I'll explain everything." Jenny stared at the message, her fingers shaking. Something in her gut told her this wasn't right. But with her mother's condition worsening and her family sinking deeper into debt, she felt trapped. Desperation can make a person do things they never imagined. And for Jenny, tomorrow would change everything. Jenny barely slept that night. Amaka's message kept replaying in her mind. Easy cash. What kind of job promised that? She knew deep down that nothing in Lagos came easy, especially for a poor girl like her. The next morning, she woke up to chaos. Her youngest brother, Chinedu, was crying because he hadn't eaten since the previous night. Their mother lay weak on the old mattress, coughing violently. The sound tore through Jenny's heart like a blade. "Mama, please eat something," she pleaded, holding a plate of plain gari and water. Her mother shook her head weakly. "Give it to your brother, I'll be fine." Jenny bit her lip to stop herself from crying. They had nothing left. She had begged their neighbors for food too many times. They were starting to avoid her now. As she rushed out to her part-time job at a restaurant, she got a call from the hospital. "Miss Jenny, if you don't bring the money today, we will have to discharge your mother. We can't keep treating her for free. But please, just give me 1 more week. We've already given you time." The voice on the phone said coldly, "By 6 p.m. today, bring the money or take her home." Jenny's hands trembled as she ended the call. Where would she get 50,000 before evening? At work, Jenny couldn't focus. She was serving customers at the restaurant, but all she could think about was the hospital bill. As she cleared a table, a man in his late 40s grabbed her wrist. "Fine girl, why are you frowning?" His breath smelled of alcohol. He pulled out his wallet and flashed a bundle of 1,000 notes. "Smile for me, and I'll make your problems disappear." Jenny yanked her hand away, disgusted. She had seen girls like Amaka accepting offers like this, but she always told herself she was different. She had dignity, but dignity didn't pay hospital bills. When she got her wages at the end of her shift, it was just $3,500. It wasn't even enough for transport for the week, let alone her mother's treatment. As she walked home, she saw her landlord standing in front of their house, shouting at her siblings, "I've had enough. If I don't get my money by the end of this week, all of you will sleep outside." Jenny rushed forward, begging, "Please, sir, I just need more time. I don't care. Pay up or get out." He stormed off, leaving her siblings in tears. Jenny sat on the ground, defeated. Everywhere she turned, there was suffering. No one was coming to save them. Her phone vibrated. It was Amaka. "Are you ready to change your life?" Jenny stared at the message for a long time. Could she really do this? Could she cross the line? With a deep breath, she typed back, "Where should we meet?" Jenny's heart pounded as she stood outside a luxurious lounge in Victoria Island. The neon lights flickered above her, and expensive cars lined the parking lot. She had never been in a place like this before. Amaka stepped out, looking glamorous in a tight-fitted designer dress. "Jenny, you made the right choice," she said, smiling. "I haven't agreed to anything yet," Jenny muttered. Amaka laughed, linking arms with her. "Come inside first. Have a drink. Relax." Jenny hesitated, but followed. The lounge was filled with wealthy men and beautiful girls. She noticed how some of the girls were seated on men's laps, laughing at their jokes, sipping expensive champagne. A waiter approached them. "What will you have, ladies?" Before Jenny could speak, Amaka ordered 2 glasses of wine. "Drink," she urged, pushing one toward Jenny. Jenny shook her head. "I don't drink." Amaka rolled her eyes. "Babe, loosen up. You're too uptight. See, these men? They don't like boring girls."
Jenny clenched her fists under the table. "Amaka, just tell me what this job is about." Amaka sighed dramatically. "Fine, it's simple. Rich men want company. You keep them entertained, they give you money. No one forces you to sleep with anyone. But if you do, you make way more." Jenny felt her stomach turn. "So you want me to be a prostitute?" Amaka smirked. "Call it whatever you want, but while you're starving, I'm living large." She leaned in. "You need money, Jenny. Real money, not that nonsense. $3,500 you're making from that useless job." Jenny looked around. The other girls looked happy, carefree. Their bags, their dresses, their jewelry, it all screamed wealth. But at what cost? "Look," Amaka continued, "I know this is hard for you. That's why I got you a soft job. No men, just one night, one thing, and you'll be rich." Jenny frowned. "What do you mean?" Amaka smiled. "Meet Mr. Charles tomorrow. He's offering $500,000 for something very simple." Jenny's pulse quickened. "What is it?" Amaka leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "He wants you to spend the night with his dog." Jenny's breath caught in her throat. "What?" Amaka shrugged like it was nothing. "Relax, it's just one night. No one will ever know. And you walk away with more money than you've ever seen." Jenny felt like she was going to be sick. She grabbed her bag and stood up. "You're insane." Amaka didn't stop her. "Think about it, babe. When your mother dies because you couldn't afford treatment, remember this moment." Jenny's legs felt weak as she rushed out of the lounge. The streets felt colder. The weight of her world pressed down harder than ever. She didn't want to do it. But what choice did she have? Jenny barely remembered how she got home that night. Her mind was a storm, her body trembling. How could Amaka even suggest such a thing? She collapsed onto her thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. 500,000. That money could change everything. It could pay the hospital bills, settle their rent, and even put food on the table. But at what cost? The thought alone made her stomach churn. Was this what poverty did to people? Was this how far she had fallen? Her phone buzzed. It was Amaka. "Amaka, I know you're thinking about it. Don't waste time. The offer won't last forever." Jenny threw the phone aside, disgusted with herself for even considering it. She curled up into a ball, forcing herself to sleep. But sleep never came. The next morning, Jenny went straight to the hospital. She had barely eaten, but she needed to see her mother. Maybe looking into her mother's eyes would remind her of who she was. When she got there, her heart dropped. Her mother was struggling to breathe, her skin pale, her lips cracked. A nurse was adjusting the IV drip when she saw Jenny. "You're lucky you came early," the nurse said softly. "If she doesn't get the proper treatment soon, I don't know how much longer she has." Jenny knelt beside her mother, tears filling her eyes. "Mama, please hold on. I'll find the money." Her mother's weak fingers brushed Jenny's face. "You work too hard, my daughter," she whispered. "Don't sell your soul because of me." Jenny froze. Did her mother know what she was thinking? "I will do whatever it takes," Jenny said, gripping her mother's hand. Her mother smiled faintly. "Just don't lose yourself in the process." Jenny left the hospital feeling even worse. If she lost her mother, it would be her fault. As she walked home, Jenny's head throbbed with stress. The streets were noisy, filled with life, but all she felt was emptiness. She stopped by a roadside shop to buy bread with the last 200 in her pocket. As she reached for the loaf, another hand grabbed it. She turned and saw a woman, thin, with sunken cheeks, holding a small child. The woman looked at her with desperation. Jenny's heart ached. She slowly let go of the bread. The woman muttered, "God bless you," and walked away. Jenny clenched her fists. Even in her suffering, she still had enough conscience to help someone else. But what about her family? Who would help them? Her phone vibrated. Another message from Amaka. "Amaka, last chance. Mr. Charles is waiting." Jenny's breathing quickened. She looked up at the sky, searching for a sign. And then she whispered, "God, why have you abandoned me?" Because at that moment, she knew she had no choice left. Jenny sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone. Her heart pounded as she read Amaka's message again. "Last chance. Mr. Charles is waiting." She wanted to ignore it. She wanted to throw her phone against the wall and pretend this wasn't happening. But her mother's frail face haunted her. Her siblings' hungry cries echoed in her head. The hospital's warning repeated like a broken record. "If you don't bring the money today, we will have to discharge your mother." Her fingers trembled as she typed, "Where do I meet him?" Within seconds, Amaka replied with an address. A luxury hotel in Lekki. Jenny felt her stomach turn. This was it. She was about to cross a line she could never uncross. Jenny stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing herself. She had borrowed a dress from Amaka, something short, tight, and revealing. The kind of dress that made her feel exposed, like she wasn't herself anymore. She reached for her necklace, the small silver cross her mother had given her when she was a child, a symbol of faith, of purity, of everything she was about to throw away. Her hands shook as she removed it and placed it on the table. A soft knock on the door made her jump. Amaka peeked in, smiling. "You look perfect," she said. "Mr. Charles is waiting downstairs." Jenny swallowed hard. Her legs felt weak as she followed Amaka out of the room. This was it. No turning back. What do you think will become of Jenny? Will she take the offer? Drop your opinion on the comments.